Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today we are doing a May garden tour and I'm so excited to show you how many things are blooming in the garden. Okay, so it's the beginning of May and I like to do this where I do a May garden tour and then the next day I talk about what my goals were for April, if I achieved them, and then talk about my new garden goals for May. I found that I really like this approach as opposed to doing a garden tour at the end of the month, just because this allows you to see what I'm aiming for in my garden for the current month, and then it allows you to set some of your own goals for your own garden. But we're in the front yard today, and as you can see, it is blooming beautifully. This whole front garden set is just absolutely amazing. And what makes me really proud of this is that so much of it was grown from seed. So you see lots of these tall petunias coming up in different places. Those were all grown from seed this year. I started a bunch of them in November and December, and they are doing absolutely beautifully. We have a massive rainstorm about to come through, and a lot of these will get knocked down, but they'll pop back up. But they are just doing beautifully. I'm trying to hold out until after my garden tour that I'm doing a local garden tour on May 11th here in Wylie. If you're interested, I'll put the link down below in the video description, and it benefits my public library, my local public library, their own gardens. And so I'm trying to let these go for a little bit longer before the garden tour. After the garden tour, I'm going to give them a cut back and help them with a little bit more branching, but they are beautiful. And of course, all my foxgloves are coming up beautifully. Foxgloves are perennial in my area. I have a few different varieties in here, but mainly Dalmatian varieties, but they're doing beautiful. I think these are also the Camelot as well. As a reminder, foxglove is extremely poisonous. I want to show you down here too. This is the result of spider mites down here, which is typical of foxglove in my area. You can actually see the little webs at the edge here. But truthfully, tonight's rainstorm will knock a bunch of those off. It won't be an issue. There's a little bumblebee crawling up in there. But I love growing foxglove as a perennial. They will bloom now, and then once they're done blooming, I'll probably collect seeds, and then I'll cut the stalks all the way back to the ground. And then they will spend the summer growing new greens, new foliage, and then come fall, they should give me another round of blooms, which is what they typically do. But these are just absolutely beautiful, and they've added just so much whimsy to my garden this year. I've really, really enjoyed it. But let me get Jeff to follow me over to the porch. We'll kind of come into the porch and check things out. So I did do my porch redo. So I wanted to show you guys some of my planters up here, which are all looking really nice. I've noticed that my fuchsia isn't blooming as profusely as I would like. I don't know if it's just that it's like blooming for one day or so, or it's not getting enough sun or what, but this is what's happening. The buds are just kind of falling off instead of blooming. So those of y'all who know more about fuchsia, let me know about that. But you can see all the coleus is filling in well. Over here, we've got all the impatiens blooming as well. And then back here, this coleus is not getting enough light, so it's really small and straggly. And these are actually impatiens as well. And they're not getting enough light, so they're not really blooming either. So I do probably need to push this whole planter forward. And then back here we've got the begonia, which is doing beautifully as well. But I'm really pleased with the planters so far. None of these 4 planters are set up on drip. And so I do have to come out and hand water these. Okay, so my Virginia creeper is amazing. So whimsical and magical. It makes the house look like a little cottage in the woods. I absolutely love it, and I'm enjoying it so much. Jeff and I were talking, though, it will be very important. If it gets any larger than about this, we will have to trim it back, pull some ends down, which is not a problem. I'm very good at maintaining the roots at the very base to make sure I don't get runners off in all the places. So should I ever want to pull this down, I really just have to cut it at the roots, pull it all down, and then it will start over from the base of the plant. These containers are doing beautifully. It looks like somebody's been munching on my coleus over here, which is totally fine. Let me see if I see any little guys. I don't see any little guys over here. Yeah, but somebody's been having a heyday with the coleus over here, which is good. The impatiens are going beautifully. These are the double up begonias in white and in pink down here, which are filling in nicely. This is just a standard begonia at the back. And then back here I have Burgundy Glow Ajuga, which is filling in beautifully as well. This whole area is stunning, and I'm so happy with these containers. These specific containers are set up to drip, so I don't have to worry about watering them. Currently my drip is set up, I think, every 2 days for 20 minutes. That could be about right, just because we're experiencing a lot of rain right now. But these are just looking great. We are getting to the point where probably after the local garden tour, I'll cut back a lot of these blooms as well to allow them to reflush and refresh for the rest of the season. But very, very happy with that. I did want to get Jeff to kind of show down here. These are some Japanese painted ferns down here that I planted about 3 years ago, and they really didn't do much of anything. I've got one on the side and one on the side. They didn't do much of anything, but this year they've really put on some growth. And my goal with these was to put them back here, and I wanted them to kind of cascade over the edge and soften this whole back edge. Just really pleased. I mean, it took a long time, but I'm really pleased with how much growth that they have had this year. And I'm wondering when and if I can divide them and have them across this whole back portion of this garden, really kind of encapsulating the back, this front porch, so it just feels really nice and cozy. But this is looking great. Okay, so I was showing Jeff earlier this hanging basket. I haven't redone it yet. This guy right here is a sunflower seed. I didn't plant them, obviously, in this basket, so we do get nests in this area. So we've got several sunflower seeds coming up in this. I was just laughing. They won't stay there. I mean, they're struggling because they don't get a lot of sun, but I thought that was super funny. But I've got this spring container. This was the very first set of spring containers I planted. Now, my delphiniums are done. I've already cut them off and harvested the seeds, but my petunias that I grew from seed are utilizing the delphinium stems as a trellis, which I think is super fun. And you can see over here all of these just beautiful petunias cascading over the side. Absolutely gorgeous. I've still got some of the geraniums, and there's a whole nother round of blooms coming up on them. It does look like I probably need to cut back my verbena right here, and hopefully it will reflush again soon, although I see a lot of new blooms coming up on it too. And then in the front, I have this ivy that's growing absolutely beautiful here. This was a big pot of alyssum that I had over the winter, and then moved it up front here to be part of the group. Now this alyssum is on its way out. It starts drying out, and it gets really hot for this time of year. And so I will need to replace that soon. This is some dianthus I had transplanted into this pot last year. It's doing really good. And for reference, when I first, earlier this spring, I cut it back really far, and then I put this little bitty rabbit in it. And the rabbit was like the main part of the show, and now the dianthus has grown up around it. So this little trio of pots has really turned out beautifully. Okay, so this planter right here consisted of some perennials, and then I added in some annuals. So this right here is a Henry Dulberg salvia that I planted in the planter last year, and it's magnificent, absolutely beautiful. Probably in about a month or so, I'll probably get it a really nice cut back, and then it should reflush from there. And then I also have some Dusty Miller tucked in here that's over here. It is trying to go to bloom, so I do need to cut that stalk back. Once your Dusty Miller tries to go to bloom, it stops focusing on the foliage and focuses on the flowers. And at that point in time, the foliage just starts looking really not great. I've got a whole bunch of my petunias grown from seed here. They are kind of spilling over that kind of, that Snow Princess alyssum, that little white flowers below. Spilling over that, but still looking really, really pretty. And I love that around the base, all of the maidenhair fern is coming back beautifully, and will grow high enough that eventually you won't see that pot at all. Okay, so these right here are all my Dutch iris and they are finished blooming and it is time to cut them back. And that'll be a chore for this week, preparing for the garden tour. And you can see that a lot of my pansies are starting to get chlorosis. I'll have Jeff come closer. So you're starting to see a lot of yellowing on the leaves, and then you're seeing a lot of veining, dark green veining on the leaves. So they lack iron. But like I said, I'm just waiting to get through the tour this next Saturday, and then pretty much all these pansies are going to get ripped out. Pansies and violas. Once they get older in my area, the pansies and violas, they really start to attract spider mites. And so I really don't want that happening. So we'll be pulling all of those and then we'll be adding some beautiful summer annuals. I am in love with this coleus right here. It's called Sunset Calacha. It has pinks and oranges and yellows and greens, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm really happy with how it's doing. This is about its full grown height. It grows to about 10 to 12 inches. So that's looking really nice. And then directly behind it, the dark purple red coleus, that is dragon coleus, and it gets much taller. And it's doing beautiful as well. And you can probably see the interesting, unique leaves that look like little fans, the green leaves. Those are lupin. And I did grow these from seed and they have not bloomed this year. So I'm wondering if they're just going to basically grow this whole year and then maybe bloom next year. Not really sure. I do like the texture of the leaves a lot, and the coleus will grow up and really start to kind of shade that off, which will be really good for the lupin as we get into the hotter times of the year. So over here, my barberry is finally coming back. Absolutely beautiful. I can't remember what the exact name of this barberry is, and I don't want to get too far into it. Here it is. Admiration barberry, and I love the delicate leaves and with a little bit of lime green on the edging of the leaves. Absolutely beautiful. These have thorns on them, which is why I didn't really want to get involved in there, but it is beautiful. And you can see how important this red shrub is in this space. As Jeff steps back, you can see that if that red shrub wasn't there, it would just be too much green. These are my limelight hydrangeas at the back. It'd just be too much green going on. So having that little pop of red really adds some contrast in the space, which is really nice. I have some containers with some additional petunias that I've grown from seed. All across this front here, this right here and this right here are my banana cream Shasta daisies coming up, which are beautiful. It looks like both of them are going to have a lot of blooms. I transplanted these from the side garden last year. I don't love Shasta daisies, but I understand the purpose of having a Shasta daisy. And they are coming towards the end of the spring, which is nice, and they'll fill in, some space once all these petunias petunias and pansies and violas stop blooming. Okay, so I really want to do, maybe this week, we'll see. I really want to do a cleanup video. Right here at the back, you can see all the new growth and shoots coming up from the base of my crepe myrtle, and I definitely want to be cutting all those off. I have a ridiculous amount of weeds and errant sunflowers and a lot of stuff going on back here, so I would really like to get in there. It looks like I might have some kind of fungus growing on these growing on this phlox here. This is a phlox I planted last year, last fall, and I don't know if it's actually going to bloom for me this year, but I probably need to come out and treat it. I'm not familiar with whatever's going on this phlox because it's never happened to my other phloxes, but probably just treat that with something. Now up here you can see all the bees going bonkers on this beautiful pink spirea, and this is its first year in the garden. I planted it this last fall, and there's 3 plants in there, and they are doing beautifully, and I cannot wait for those plants to just double every year in size. So they're looking great, and they're massive pollinator magnets. As you can see, all these busy little bees around it. They're doing beautifully. I'm really excited about the number of perennials that I've got going in here. I'm going to step in front of Jeff for a second. Now this guy right here is my summerific hibiscus, and I believe in the last garden video I showed you guys, it had just broken ground, maybe like an inch or 2 tall. But this is absolutely beautiful and will be the showpiece of the front garden for the summer with beautiful giant hibiscus blooms. But I'm already really pleased with the foliage. I think the foliage looks really great. This is its second year. Yeah, this is its second year in the garden. And it's looking really nice, and I'm just really excited to see how it does. If this continues doing well, I'd love to tuck one back in the back corner behind the crepe myrtle. I think that that would be really beautiful. Okay, so this is also an area where I added a whole bunch of perennials. Now, right now, those perennials are shaded out a little bit by these fabulous Triumph, Super Bisma Triumph petunias that I grew from seed that are ridiculous. Let me get Jeff to show you some of the close-ups of these. They look fake. They're so amazing. So they are highly ruffled. This was a mix, so there are a lot of different colors and varieties to them. They are so fun and interesting compared to other petunias, and they're massive blooms. But grew them from seed, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to grow them from seed for years to come because I've been so happy with them. The seeds are from Baker Creek if you're interested. I believe you can get them in other areas, but that's where I purchased mine. Now, so among this, I have this little foliage coming through is a nepeta and an additional nepeta over here. Back here, I've got a rock rose coming up, which will be really nice. These are dahlias coming up, and these are dahlia tubers that I leave in year after year after year. They're coming out beautifully, and I'll talk about those once they start blooming. This is the only area where I leave dahlia tubers in the ground and they come back. I've got some penstemon coming up and blooming beautifully, and this is a great perennial for me. And down here I've got some dianthus. Let me get Jeff to show you some of the close-ups of this. This peach, I think it's called Odessa. Dianthus. So these are coming up really nicely, and you can see I've got a lot of dead blooms, and you just come in and pinch off these blooms for the dianthus and it will continue to flush back for you. So as long as you keep your dianthus deadheaded, it's going to come back over and over again. You can wait for it to complete its entire flush and then come through and just shave off the whole thing. But you know, that's kind of up to you, but you can see I probably have 40-50 blooms about to explode on that dianthus. Super, super pretty. Okay, so this area has changed a lot since the last garden tour. Check out this meteor showers verbena. It is 5 or 6 feet tall, absolutely beautiful. The bumblebees and pollinators are all over it. This guy is a perennial and it reseeds itself readily in the garden, but where it reseeds itself, it's very easy to pull up. So it's nothing that bothers me or anything like that. But this area is filling in beautifully. I'm about at the end with my oxeye daisy right here. And it's funny because this oxeye daisy has been all over the garden. I've dug it up and moved in, and then right here where it's at, it actually reseeded itself right here. This is not where I actually planted it this time. I like oxeye daisy. It's not my favorite. I originally really liked it when I started my cut flower garden because it was great for cut flowers, but I've since discovered so many other cut flowers that I enjoy more that I just let this guy bloom now. I don't really stress about it. Is that little pollinator sleeping? Oh no, there he goes. I've got a whole bunch of petunias that I grew from seed, filling in this area beautifully. I've got sedum coming up. I've got my first butterfly bush. This is a Pugster Blue butterfly bush by Proven Winners. I've got my first bloom that has come up, and this is absolutely beautiful. Now, I will say that this butterfly bush really struggles with spider mites every year. And so basically I let it bloom for a while, and then once it starts getting spider mites pretty bad, which this season has already been really bad for spider mites, I hack it down all the way to the ground and let it regrow. It does regrow beautifully, which is really, really fun. Now I do have projects coming up this week where I'm going to be transplanting 5 roses onto the side garden. One of them is going to get tucked back in this area, which will be really fun. I'm going to get Jeff to dig some holes for me because y'all know I don't like to dig holes. But it's going to be right behind this Helen von Stein lamb's ear right here. The rose is going to be here, and then we're going to be planting an evergreen in the container back there. So I think that's going to be really nice. Now the spireas are done, and as part of a cleanup video, I am going to be showing you how I prune back my spireas, and now is the time that I prune back my spireas. As soon as they finish blooming, I prune them back because spireas do bloom off of new wood. So what I want to do is go ahead and prune this all back and allow it to spend the rest of the season growing all new foliage and new wood on there so that I have lots of blooms for next year. Jeff, I don't know if you want to step down. See? Okay, so the Ruby Falls Weeping Red Bed is glorious right now. Absolutely beautiful. We are getting to the point where I'm going to trim it back some because I like an umbrella shape for it. And then everything that's exposed on the outside turns this beautiful kind of purple green. In the inside, you can see a lot going on in the inside. Jeff will show you with some new stuff trying to come up from the ground, and that's not exposed to light, so therefore it has more just a solid green color. And so we will do some trimming on this, shaping it. I like for it to have a clean line on the bottom so you can see all the way through the back. But that'll be coming soon. But it's beautiful. It's just so healthy and happy. Now this border in here, it's about time to get this border cleaned up. I have a lot of actually coneflowers coming up, but I need to pull all of the violas and such so that we don't get really bad spider mites where they're at. Get these cleaned back. Cleaning up these spireas will also expose lots of coneflower, which is really fun. This is one of the reasons I did this. I planted so much coneflower in there is that once I cut these spireas back, they would be exposed. They're not much to look at in early spring, but in summer, they bloom wonderfully, and summer is when these spirea get cut back. So I think it's been really fun to do a cleanup of this whole entire area and show the difference of before and after. I think that'll be really fun video to show you guys coming up in the next week or so. Okay, so this is actually an area where we're going to plant some of the new roses. I do have lots of balloon flower coming up that are not currently blooming. I added a lot of perennials to this area. Back here Jeff can show you guys, is my sea holly eryngium that I started from bare root. I've planted 3 back here and they're doing beautifully. They've grown quite a bit. They're very happy. I hope they bloom this year, but I'm not sure if they will or not. And back here, it looks like I have some of that meteor showers verbenas coming back. I have a lot of weeding that needs to be done. I really do need to put some kind of ground cover back here to help with these weeds, but this guy I might keep. Pretty much everything else gets pulled up. This is a purple echinacea, which is native to my area. And I grew that from bare root too. But we're going to be adding a rose to this particular container, which I think will be really fun. I do have some of my bluebird asters are starting to pop and bloom over here. They are a very small, delicate perennial aster. Very, very nice. So they're growing beautifully and they will give me a lot of blooms. And then I will cut these back and they'll give me another round of blooms. My iris are pretty much done. My bearded iris, doing good. This was the autumn sunrise. It's done blooming. This is another one back here. I can't think of what its name is, but it didn't give me any blooms this year. So that's interesting. I'm not sure why, but I'll have to keep an eye on it. Actually, this was probably it and I missed it. I bet this is it from that particular rhizome. Yeah, that is. I missed it. It was covered by all these autumn sunrise ones, which have gone crazy. And I already talked to some of y'all who are local to my area, and this autumn sunrise, I'm going to be dividing that later in this summer. I'll give some of those and pass those along to you all. We're going to be tucking an additional rose in the back here. My gladiolas are blooming. I believe this one is called My Love or First Love or Forever Love, something love. They're blooming beautifully. I am using these stake rings to hold them up. I need to get some more of these, and I'm hoping to be more diligent with my gladiolas this year. Instead of letting them flop over, get them held up by the stakes so that I can utilize the bloom, because gladiolas are heliotropic. So if they fall over, then the bloom will try to right itself. So it'll grow with like this major kink in the stem. And that makes it almost impossible to arrange with. We do have chocolate cosmos that overwintered and were transplanted from some containers in the back. They were transplanted up front here, and I'm really excited to see them over the years. There's another one right here. Really pretty. And while Jeff's right here, this is a double scoop bubblegum echinacea, our coneflower that's coming up here. This is a perennial as well. It's doing it beautifully. Oh, sorry, that scared me. I've got some more stuff. I've got a lot going on. This is lots of perennial in this year in the front. Let me sit down here for a second. So these are all something town. Can't think what the name is. They're proven winners. Dianthus across the front. They are ready for a shave. So you can see all these dead brown blooms. I don't see a lot of new green blooms coming up. So if I come in and I just shave the top 2 inches of these will produce a whole nother round of blooms, which will be great. This right here is called Windwalker Red Salvia. It is one plant that spreads throughout all the other plants, which is exactly what I was hoping it would do, right? Because it's right here, it's right here, it's right here, but it like twines itself through all the other plants. See, it even went around this little boxwood and came over here to the front, and then it weaves itself back everywhere, which is wonderful. And then when the time comes and it's no longer blooming, I'll just go back and hack it back at the base of the plant, probably maybe 12 inches above the base of the plant, and it will reflush all new blooms. So really excited about that. Okay, so the rest of this area, I have some more bearded iris, which is finishing up. I have a globe thistle. I think it's called a globe thistle. I could have that wrong. Back here, that's getting ready to bloom. My Golden Falls Weeping Redbud right here is beautiful, putting out that lime green yellow color. These negative spaces right here are going to be where we're going to have right here and right here. We're going to be planting 2 additional roses there, which I think will be gorgeous. My kaleidoscope abelia is looking beautiful. Loving that. I've got my cherry vanilla zinnias that are trying to come up. They're struggling a little bit. I think if I came in and I deadheaded them a little bit, that would help a lot. These are fun, beautiful blooms. They get to about 12 to 18 inches taller, so 12 to 18 inches tall. So they should get taller than what they're at right now. I've got all the Homestead Verbena in pink and purple in a giant flush all the way across the front of these beds. These right here are my powwow coneflowers, and they are about to go bonkers, and they will put on tons and tons and tons of blooms, which should be absolutely beautiful. Now back here, this dead little stump back there is my sweet almond verbena, and it did not make it this winter. So I decided I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up. It only lasted a couple of seasons. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm just going to put a beautiful rose right here. I haven't decided if, I think a container with a rose right here would be nice, and then maybe just a taller rose planted directly in the ground back there, maybe both of them in a container. Haven't really decided which I'm going to do, but that is a huge project coming up. Now, this is my cat's pajamas Nepeta, and last time y'all saw it, I had to massively cut it back because I had forgotten to prune it before all the new growth came in, so it's really wonky. So I did a massive pruning all the way back, and you can see it's flushed back gorgeous. I'm really excited. We've got the orange rocket barberry back here, which is creating a lot of contrast for all the green here. This is my Russian sage, and I did pin some of it back, but it looks like I need to come through with another piece of twine, pull it back a little bit, because I do have a pink guara right here that I planted. But right now I've got it held back right here, you can see, with pieces of twine. And I just need to come back with some additional twine and basically position this one in place just to hold it back and upright. Some of y'all did comment that I need to make sure not to fertilize my Russian sage in the future, because that's why it flops. This is what it looks like when it's blooming. these really pretty, just pale purple, whimsical blooms, which are really fun and beautiful and very fragrant. It is a sage, so it puts off some amazing scent. Okay, so the smoke bush is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Since I limbed it up, it has become like this wow factor in the garden. When you say, Jeff, like when I purposely drive, I'll take the long way back into my neighborhood so I can drive by this side area specifically so I can see the smoke bush now because it is so beautiful. It is finishing up its blooming cycle right now, but it's very happy and it's doing really nice. Now underneath is a bunch of my yarrow. I have a bunch of cottage yarrow and it's just kind of gone crazy. I haven't added to it in a year or so, but it's really pretty. You can see the beautiful pink colors coming up. I do need to begin harvesting the yarrow because the deal with the yarrow is it is cut and come again. So if I allow this yarrow to, you know, flush and bloom and then I don't cut it, it's going to be a problem. This is, I believe, the terracotta cottage yarrow, which is a really fun, beautiful color. If I allow this to bloom and I don't cut on it at all, then all of it will just basically stop blooming. So I do need to get in here and harvest some of it to encourage additional blooms. Now I told Jeff I needed to show this area, which is basically a failure back here, not doing so great. I planted a bunch of the candy tuft back here, or also known as Iberis, that I grew from seed. I knew that it really wasn't going to do anything right now because it's too hot for Iberis and candy tuft. Like, it's all bloomed out. That blooms late winter. So I'm just hoping that the roots survived underneath and that come next winter, this will fill in beautifully. I've got a few of the cleome, which need to be cut back too, so that I can encourage more blooms. And I did tuck an iris back here, which is doing really nicely. So that's good. And it will, you can see it, it's green. Leaves are holding on. So it should next year give me really beautiful stuff, really beautiful blooms back here. Now this trellis right here is going to be getting a rose, an additional rose. This is the 5th rose that we're going to be putting this year on this side of the area. Y'all gave me a ton of suggestions, and in the end, I'm just really excited about having clematis here. But I want a rose, not a climbing rose, but a standard rose bush here. And then I want to plant clematis at the base so the clematis can climb through the rose. I'm just really into that idea and that thought process. So I think this is going to be a really pretty area. I didn't want to do anything that was super intense because Jeff and I are hoping to replace this fence right here with an 8-foot fence. And I didn't want to put like a really intense climbing rose at this point in time on this fence because I do hope that we replace it in the next maybe 2 to 3 years. So in the meantime, we'll do with that. Now we do have some erosion issues that I kind of showed you guys in another video, and we are having those dealt with. And once the water issue is fixed, I will do a video where Jeff and I will fill this in with soil, and then we will attach probably a polypropylene netting across the top to hold all of the soil, the new soil we put down, in place. But let's go to the backyard and let me show you the massive change that Jeff and I made the last few days. Okay, willow tree is doing great. We're not going to do any tour across the very back part of the yard because we're having massive drainage issues. We've had so much rain, and we're 2 weeks out. Middle of May, I signed a contract with one of my neighbors who's a contractor, and he is going to be installing 104 feet of French drains across the entire length of the backyard and then out the side to the storm drains. So I am going to be showing a video on that. I'm going to be talking about cost and then the process that he is going through as well, just so y'all can see what all is involved. I was happy with the cost. I felt comfortable with it. When I talked about the drainage in the past, a lot of y'all were like, Amanda, don't do it yourself. Several of y'all who are more established, older gardeners who have had way more experience than I have said that I will kill my back and I'll regret it in the future. So that's really good to know, and I did take y'all's advice on that. I did want to show these ligustrum over here. I've had these ligustrum in here for several years, and this year we did limb them up to kind of see what was going on behind them and to kind of give them a different look and in preparation for potential future climbing roses. Since we limbed them up and actually fertilized them, they're actually blooming, and this is the first time that I've really seen them bloom well or better than the past. So they are putting on blooms. This particular ligustrum does not turn to berries. A lot of y'all had asked about that because they can be considered invasive because birds eat the berries and then they poop out the seeds all in the area and the whole thing. These don't turn to actual any kind of berries. They just bloom and then they're done. They are getting, they already had chlorosis at the beginning of the year. But we do have some leaves that are looking better than they were. And I will say they are starting to form these, they get spider mites really bad on these bushes as well. And I am starting to see some of the webs show up. Typically with spider mites, they start showing up when things get a little dry. And so I think that once we have another rainstorm, that should knock them back a little bit until we start hitting some of the hotter weather. Okay, I'm standing on a new area. Jeff and I he took a day off of work and we did a ton of work, and we ended up covering up a portion of our grass and covering it with mulch. And so this is going to be an area we got probably rid of about 30% of the grass in our area, I think. And we're really excited about it because that's an area where we had a lot of drainage problems and it's constantly wet. So by switching to the mulch, I think it's going to be great. Before we get too far into that, I want to show you this area over here. We've got all of the beautiful chocolate dara blooms. I'll try to show you guys. Jeff's going to show you some close-up. Chocolate dara blooms, as they get older, they get lighter in color. But when they're blooming, they tend to have a little bit of red chocolate tones. And then you can see like this one in particular is a really deep chocolate. These are reseed themselves every year. Excellent for cut flowers. Very easy to pull up, and if you don't want them in certain places, it's very easy to recognize their leaves. So I don't really stress about them. I let them go wild in here, and then if they're in an area I don't want, I just pull it up and it's not a problem. I do have all my Uptown Girl phlox is blooming like crazy. This is a perennial in this area, and this is one of the goals. I want to divide this phlox this year. It's been here for, gosh, 5-6 years now. And it is time. I think there were originally 2 plants. I would like to basically go ahead and divide this and move it to some other portions of the yard. Now this area is a new area. So I've got basically these long kind of lacy ones. These are liatris that are coming up and will be beautiful purple blooms. And then these larger ones right here are oriental Casablanca lilies. And both of them are bulbs and will be here from years to come. But I am crazy excited to see how this is going to turn out. It's absolutely beautiful already. It hasn't even bloomed. I was just looking back. I had transplanted a clematis back here, but he's not looking real great. I don't know if he's going to make it. That'll be more just focused on roots for now, I guess. He's not going to give me any blooms this year. But really excited to see the Casablanca lilies mixed with the purple liatris. Okay, so I have a lot of larkspur blooming, a beautiful purple blue larkspur. I am letting a lot of it go to seed because I would like to fill in these beds a little bit more. And I do have a lot of my perennials that I planted last fall. I grew them from seed and planted them coming back. This one in particular I'm really excited about. This is called Zulu Warrior. And this, I don't know if it's native to my area or not, but it's got sharp little points on the leaves, but it gives a massive kind of purple lavender flower that I'm crazy excited to see, and hoping that this perennial will return year after year after year. I do really like its texture. I think it really kind of adds a little bit of contrast in this space. So I think it's going to be really fun. And Jeff can scan over this bed a little bit and you can see all the smaller perennial plants in here, which will be really fun. Rudbeckia. I have a perennial version of Veronica that's supposed to be like more of a native Veronica, so it should do a little bit better in this area. A lot of different varieties of plants in here, including weeds. Let me pull that up. But yeah, so this bed is going to be really fun. It's not going to be a lot going on with it this year, But in the future, it's going to be an amazing bed filled with perennials. It's just great. In the meantime, I am going to be planting a lot of sunflowers, zinnias, marigolds in between these perennials, because these perennials aren't going to get a ton bigger this year. It's their first year. And when you're starting perennials from seed, they take a long time. So I don't want to just leave that bed just for those perennials and not produce much in it. So I'll definitely be filling in with some zinnias and sunflowers. Now I'm going to get Jeff to switch places with me real quick. This is the time of year I'm really excited because a lot of the things that I started from seed are coming to fruition. So if you remember, I planted out this area not long ago with 3 different varieties of basil, I think 4 different varieties of basil. So let's show those varieties of basil. All of these started from seed this year. Now real quick, I will say that back here, my bells of Ireland are coming up beautifully. I had planted a whole bunch of these in the fall, hoping to overwinter them, and they all got hit. I forgot to cover them. They all got hit pretty bad by the really cold winter storms. I only had 2 that survived, but I do have back here, I've got my mammoth basil, which is coming up beautifully, great for culinary herbs, and these leaves will get really massive. This is a dark opal basil, which is really nice coming up. This right here, I think it's called Siam Queen, and these will have these little purple plumes at the top, which are really fun for flower arrangements. And then I think the last one I had was a Thai basil up front. And then here's another Bells of Ireland coming up. But the basil is filling in beautifully, which I'm really excited about. I also have, these are a little bit harder to see, I have a blue lace flower, a Didicus flower coming up, which is great. I'm not going to be harvesting these this year. I'm hoping they bloom and reseed themselves in the area. This whole front part is dianthus, sweet dianthus. So this one right here is a purple-white bicolor. These are perennial in my area, so I'm really excited. Here's the sweet white dianthus. And then over here is the black cherry, this black cherry sweet dianthus. Now these are all really little this year because they're all grown from seed, but they should fill in beautifully over the years since they're perennials, and I should have tons of cut flowers across the front, which will be really nice. Now I do have a few errant bulbs that I don't remember what they are. This is a purple bulb flower right here, which is beautiful. I don't know what it is. And then this other one that's like firecracker or something, I believe. Here's the purple one. If any of y'all recognize it, let me know. And then this guy is called like a firecracker or something, and he gets a lot more bloomy later on as we're going. But this area, it's my goal, right? My goal, my gardening style is see no soil. I don't want to see the soil. I want it to be all plants. So you can see from here over, I'm definitely achieving that. Now from here over, not so much. We're actually going to skip this area. It's a work in progress. The roses aren't currently blooming, so we'll come back to it. But we're going to flip around and talk about the beds behind Jeff. So I can actually stand here. So this area, usually if you'd stand here, you'd sink in solid mud. So I'm really excited. Now over here, we have tons of status blooming like crazy. This guy ended up being a perennial this year for me and overwintering beautifully. These are status. They kind of have a papery sound to them. Beautiful cut flowers, great dried flowers as well. I do have a something rose, salmon rose scabiosa blooming. The first one coming up over there. I'm about to have like 20 or 30 scabiosa blooms coming up. I have a couple of lilies coming up here. Don't recall the variety. I'll see if I can locate it and put it down on the screen, but they are filling up in that space. I do have this area down here, which is a combination of weeds and about 1 million celosia blooms coming up. So all these right here are celosia, and it reseeds itself over and over and over in this bed. And right about the time that the status and scabiosa start to peter out, all these celosia start to take over the bed, which is really fun and gives me a lot of fall blooms. I have a few more coming on over here. I've got my bachelor's buttons growing beautifully over here. I do need to, in this back corner, I've got a bunch of what I said I wasn't going to do. I said I wasn't going to let my green dragon go to seed, and it's happening. So I need to really get over there and pull up all that green dragon cress and plant that up with a bunch of zinnias. Back over here, a little bit of my ageratum is starting to bloom back there, which is exciting. Some of my gomphrena are starting to fill in. Just a lot of stuff really growing and filling in the garden, which is just incredibly exciting. Okay, so remember when I cleaned up my back porch? It got messy again already. The porch is looking really great. I have a video coming out where I've done a lot of work on containers, but I started the containers, like I did half of them, and then I started not feeling good and I got sick for a couple of days, and then I just haven't got back to it. But we did start to work on the front containers. I pulled out all of the winter annuals, and they're really filling in nicely, and that'll be an upcoming video for you guys to see. I did notice that my blah blah blah. What are these called? I can't remember the exact name. My topiaries, Eugenia. My Eugenia topiaries, they're putting a lot of new growth on the front, but not the back. So I do think I'm going to have to rotate these. I did put these up on stands. A couple of y'all suggested I do that. I want to create more of like an entrance to the back porch, and I think you're totally right. So now these are lifted up and they definitely create more of a doorway entrance, which is great. But definitely going to need to rotate these so that they do get better sun all the way around, so I don't end up with like a flat one-sided topiary. Now I'm going to shift this direction a little bit. We have a ridiculous sunflower growing leftover from last year, putting on a lot of growth here. I think this is a branching sunflower, which will be fun. It is time to pull up all of my sweet peas. I'm going to pull them up very soon. They are just riddled with spider mites, to the point where I ended up researching about spider mites and sweet peas, and they are basically like a trap plant for spider mites. I'm not so sure I'm going to plant sweet peas next year because of this. I don't know if this is what's causing so many other spider mites in the rest of my garden. I'm not sure. But those need to get pulled out. And when I pull them out, I will put them in a bag and trash them so that they are gone. But then this bed is getting replanted with zinnias and sunflowers. We are at the end of the season for the snapdragons. Let me point out a few of them. This is my bronze, Madam Butterfly bronze, which is absolutely just stunning. I love this orange color. It's been really, really fun having it. The one beside it is Costa Apricot, which is looking really, really pretty. This one right here is Costa Lavender Summer. This is a Chantilly White. Everything is just, they're really, really pretty. I've gotten a ton of stems off them. I'll probably get at least 1 to 2 more successions of stems on them, cuts off of them, which will be great. And then I will intersperse all of my summer annuals in here. So you'll see, once again, a lot of sunflowers, a lot of zinnias, and what was the other one I was just thinking? Sunflowers, zinnias, I can't think of what the other one is, but we'll see a lot of direct sow summer annuals in these beds, which will be really great. Over here, we do have some of the mums starting to bloom. I do need to come in here and just get this America Rose tied back. But the first that bloom is going to be the French Vanilla. So these are starting to come up, my heirloom chrysanthemums starting to come up beautifully. Those will be really fun. I'm definitely going to get a really good harvest this year. This guy right here, I don't recall his name. Let me see if I can see. Grape Queen. This is Grape Queen coming up. It was the last to bloom last year, and look how early it is this year. I've got several other ones that you can see starting to peek up, which are going to be really fun. And it's going to be really exciting to have a harvest of heirloom chrysanthemums in the spring. I will cut them all back by the end of June, and then they will give me another flush for the fall. Okay, so my veggies are going okay. When I grow veggies, I grow them from the perspective of a person who loves flowers and doesn't really know how to grow veggies very well. But we are putting a lot of tomatoes are doing really well, putting on lots of blooms and beginning to set fruit. I did have trouble with a couple of my plants that went through shock and they're not looking so great. However, over here, the peppers that I overwintered inside are doing really great. They're putting on a new flush of nice deep greenery. So I feel really happy with the amount of fertilizer I ended up giving them. But they're looking pretty good. But it's these 42-day tomatoes that just did not do good. They just dropped their leaves and they just really struggled, had a hard time. I will say back here, we've got some good fruit on, what are these? Money makers are setting some good fruit back here. Everybody's looking really nice and beautiful and growing up, with the exception of those two aren't doing so good, but kind of is what it is on those. Let me trade places with Jeff and we will go ahead and end in the shade garden. Okay, so we're in transition right here. These containers are going to be moved back to that area over there. They're just over here for right now while Jeff and I are continuing the projects over here. But let me go ahead and take you guys into the shade garden and show you what's going on. Okay, so this is definitely my favorite part of my garden right now. First of all, let me show you this guy right here. This is a begonia that I started from seed. The variety, I think it's called like coral something. I'll put it down below so you can see it. Can you guys see how massive this begonia bloom is? It's just ridiculous. Absolutely love it. And it's growing beautifully. And we've done a lot of work filling in some areas in this portion of the shade garden with the heuchera coral bells, adding a clematis, a couple of different varieties of clematis. My hellebore are done, but look at this guy. This is called a, oh, I know I'm going to mispronounce it, Lismachia, and it is blooming a beautiful yellow, and it will turn a darker color, the foliage will as well. And just to the right of Jeff is the new planter that's growing beautifully. The fuchsia isn't loving its space, but it's too late now. It's in, y'all. So it's not as happy as it could be, but I think it's going to be okay. I think it just went through a little bit of shock when I ended up planting it, but I think it should fill in real nicely as well. Get Jeff just to scan this direction. Let me move my chair. Okay, so back here, my hydrangeas back here are blooming. These are hydrangeas that I bought on clearance after Mother's Day. They're those, you know, things you get for like $25, $30 at the, you know, big box store. They're not really quote unquote meant to be put in your garden. They're grown as greenhouse hydrangeas that you know, you buy for your mother and then they die and you're done. Well, I bought them on clearance and then I tried them out in pots and they've done really well. So it's really fun to see these gorgeous, beautiful blooms coming through. Over here, it's a red tone back on here, which is growing in really nicely. And then this guy back here isn't doing as great. So I might end up just replacing him this year with something else. I think it might be fun actually in this area to put a Japanese maple, have it up on the stand, a smaller Japanese maple, and then on the opposite corner I would like to put a larger Japanese maple, but something smaller right here that has really like frothy, lacy red leaves is something I would really like. Now scanning over here to this side, the trellis with the begonias is just ridiculous, y'all. Look at these. These are the begonia tubers by Proven Winners. This particular variety is called Petticoat, I believe. Really pretty. Here's a yellow back here. They've been so fun to watch grow. Apple blossom. This red one down here I grew from seed. Here, this one right here is called Fire. This is a Proven Winners as well. And all of the Swedish ivy is just really filled in. If you remember, I bought one plant and then I divided it into several, and just look how lush and beautiful it is trailing over the sides. It's just really, really nice. And this right here is my leopard plant. It is getting a little bit eaten in a few places, but that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. It's really beautiful. I might end up eventually cutting off some of the more eaten up leaves. To the side of it, the Bear's Britches acanthus is growing beautiful, and I love its variegation. Y'all know I'm a sucker for variegated leaves. I really love variegation because of the level of contrast. Do I want all of my stuff to be variegated? Absolutely not. It would look ridiculous. But having pops of variegation in different places really adds a lot of contrast to the space. My sweet little statue back here, all of the perennials that I recently planted are going really, really nicely. So yeah, we're in really good shape for the garden. All right, you all, I hope you enjoyed today's garden tour, seeing what everything looks like at the beginning of May. Remember that I will have a video coming out basically going over all my goals that I had for April, seeing if they were successes or failures, and then talking to you about my goals for May. I'm hoping that by doing this, talking about my goals at the beginning of every month, it will help you all plan better for your own gardens and what you want to do in them as well. All right, you all, as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow my channel so much. If you are local, make sure you check me out for my local garden tour where you can come see my garden in person on May 11th. I will put a link in the video description. And make sure you check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.